So I'm going to do something different here. As you can see, I have a sticky note right here, because I'm going to be taking some notes, because I'm going to analyze Trump and figure out who he really is. And this goes deeper than reading somebody. This looks at every thing. If we overviewed on somebody, what does this point to? And it shows the inner self of somebody. So we're going to find, well, I guess it would go deeper than the archetype, because you could have multiple archetypes. But I actually want to say this. So after we analyze this, I'm going to copy and paste it into ChatGPT and see if it can figure it out. So to understand Trump, you have to look at things in the future. And why, we've already talked about how he violated a higher power, that we can add that. So he violated a higher power. Putin doesn't like him. Because of that, it creates a symbolic we can say, based on the information that we know, Trump, I doubt, knew that February 19th was tied to Chernobyl. So I would say that which tells me so they probably know who he actually is, but Trump doesn't know who he is. So we already have these so he's so I also put, okay, I was worried that it would not format and would go underneath. But anyways, so he violated higher powers. Putin doesn't like him because it's symbolic violation. CIA led him to his own imprisonment, possibly implying they know who he actually is, and Trump himself doesn't. The Europeans don't like him, the Canadians don't like him, Ukrainians don't like him, i.e. the world hates, rejects him. You could even say that China doesn't like him. Or Israel, they probably neutral. Iran, they probably, I don't know if they really care about him, honestly. But looking at this information, we can get a sense of who he is. So this is where things get interesting when we talk about the Crimean imprisonment, because that's the only place the Western world would be. They would not have a radar on him. So no one, the only people who would know that he's there would be the Ukrainian National Security, the FSB / Putin, and the CIA. These are the only organizations that know where he is. And of course, you guys, if you watch this video. Which would also mean that I know where he is. So, if you do all that, he's in a containment. He's in containment. And what would happen would be he would eventually become released. Because I know that in 2029, after the SBU, after Zelensky is out of power in March, when his term ends, that's his second term, the SBU will take full control. They will blame democracy for their problem. They will reject everything from the Western narratives. They will reject, which would also in turn remove Trump from having any Western power at all if it was ever released. But here's the problem. You can't keep Trump in Crimea forever and hidden away, because there's identities from, I'm sure there's identities from the intelligence agencies to put someone in Crimea to keep them hidden. So when the whole when Comecon does its job and Crimea and Ukraine settle their differences, Crimea will open the gates, and everyone who was suppressed, their identity was suppressed by Crimea, their identity will suddenly be exposed. Now, you could keep Trump hidden in a prison and everything, but eventually the papers will come out, the stories will come out, and a leak will be shown that there's a figure still in Crimea, and their identity is kept secret. And there is nothing worse than a resurrection of Trump suddenly appearing in Crimea, where the Ukrainians are confused. Everyone's like, why is Trump there? It's going to create a huge chaotic mess. And it has to be contained. You know, he's going to be seen as the king of Crimea. Donald already means world ruler. The Europeans are going to go crazy. It's going to be a huge mess. So, what we have to do here is, when the SBU gains power over Ukraine, they're going to hate this. I hate it. But they're going to have to create a way for Trump to be able to be in their rankings. He's going to be in a ranking of law enforcement and intelligence of the Ukrainian government. But if they don't do that, if they don't contain him in that way where they control the narrative of him, when he's shown on the public world sphere, he doesn't have to speak. And it was like, he's conquered Crimea. He doesn't have to speak. They're all just going to have this uncontrolled narrative of who he is. And that's worse than having him controlled. Because here's the thing. If you look at all the information that I presented, well, maybe I haven't presented all the information I have. But if you look at the February 19th, everything, you can see that he's probably a CIA pawn. You can see this in some of the executive orders that he has signed, and how they relate to what would happen in the future. Trump would not know these things. I highly doubt he has foresight to do. So, if you present information of the CIA basically leading him into the situation he's in, he has no choice but see himself as a transactional force. That's another thing. He's transactional. He speaks in transactional ways. He speaks in leverages, business deals, and all this. that is his inner self reflecting on the real world. He's projecting who he is, but he does not know this. So he's transactional. So if the CIA is using him as a pawn, then transactionally, so could the SBU. And when they release this information to show him, he sees himself face to face, and he'd be like, oh damn, I didn't realize that. So he doesn't realize that until after he's contained. And that's the realizes who he is after he's contained. So it's as if the universe itself is making it where he can't see who he is until after this happens. Because he's not self-aware, he's not consciously aware of who he actually is. So what does this sound like? All these things put together. So he violated higher powers. He committed a symbolic violation to those higher powers. Putin doesn't like him. CIA led him to his own imprisonment in Crimea, possibly implying they know who he actually is. Europeans don't like him. Canadians don't like him. Ukrainians don't like him. The world hates, rejects him, except his own supporters. So he goes in Crimean imprisonment, bypasses Western radar, so the West does not know where he is. He's contained by the SBU, contained by Putin's actions, but he's contained under the SBU rankings. Even though they would hate that, I hate it, but that's what we have to do. He's transactional, and he realizes who he is after he's contained. I'm going to stop it here. I'm already at 12 minutes, and I'll continue and pasting this in ChatGPT to see if I can figure out who this is. So, I'll be right back.